The Roman Empire stood as civilization's greatest achievement for centuries. By 235 CE, that foundation cracked. Emperor Alexander Severus fell to assassination, triggering 50 years of chaos historians call the crisis of the 3rd century. 26 emperors claimed power between 235 and 284 CE. Most died violently within months. Germanic tribes, Goths, Alemanni, Franks, smashed through Rhine and Danube frontiers. Persia's Sassanid dynasty captured Emperor Valerian in 260 CE. He died in captivity, his skin stuffed as a Persian trophy. Economic collapse followed military disaster. Constant warfare drained treasuries. Emperors debased currency, reducing silver content from 90% to 5%. Hyperinflation destroyed trade. Plague swept the empire repeatedly. Population crashed. Cities shrank. The empire fragmented. Gaul, Britain, and Spain formed the breakaway Gallic Empire. Queen Zenobia carved out the Pomeranian Empire from Syria to Egypt. Rome controlled only Italy and the Balkans. Diocletian seized power in 284 CE and transformed everything. The Tetrarchy divided the empire among 4 rulers, 2 senior Augusti, 2 junior Caesars. Diocletian ruled the east from Nicomedia, Maximian the west from Milan. He rebuilt the military into a 600,000-man force, doubling previous size. Mobile field armies backed static frontier troops. He reorganized provinces into smaller units, 100 instead of 50, making governors less powerful and rebellion harder. The Edict on Maximum Prices fixed costs for thousands of goods and services. Death penalty for violations. It failed, black markets exploded. He tied peasants to land, workers to professions, creating a caste system that would define medieval Europe. His final legacy, the Great Persecution of 303–311 CE. Diocletian ordered churches destroyed, scriptures burned, leaders executed. It failed catastrophically, creating martyrs and strengthening Christianity. Civil war erupted after Diocletian's retirement in 305 CE. By 312 CE, Constantine marched on Rome against Maxentius. Before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, Constantine claimed divine vision. In this sign, conquer. He painted the Chi-Rho Christian symbol on shields. He won. This changed world history. The Edict of Milan in 313 CE granted religious tolerance. Constantine funded church construction on massive scale. He summoned the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, settling theological disputes and establishing Orthodox Christianity. The emperor now controlled church doctrine. Christianity transformed from persecuted sect to state religion. Constantinople, dedicated in 330 CE, became the New Rome. Built on Byzantium's strategic position controlling Black Sea trade, this purpose-built Christian capital symbolized the empire's shift eastward. Constantine stripped Rome's temples to decorate his new city. The old capital was abandoned for a Greek-speaking Christian metropolis. Constantine's military reforms completed Diocletian's work. Mobile comitatus's armies could respond rapidly to threats anywhere. German foederati, allied barbarian troops, filled the ranks. This worked brilliantly but made Rome dependent on the very barbarians threatening it. His division of the empire among sons after his death in 337 CE created precedent. East and West increasingly operated independently. The 4th century brought relentless barbarian pressure. These weren't primitive savages but sophisticated peoples seeking Rome's wealth and land. By 380 CE, most Roman soldiers were Germanic. Generals were Frankish, Gothic, Vandal. They adopted Roman names, spoke Latin, served loyally. But their tribal identities persisted. The army became a barbarian institution wearing Roman uniforms. Emperor Theodosius I made Christianity mandatory in 380 CE. Paganism became illegal. Ancient temples closed or were destroyed. Olympic Games ended. A millennium of tradition died. Theodosius's death in 395 CE created permanent division. He gave the east to Arcadius, the west to Honorius. Both were weak. The empire would never reunify. Two Roman states now existed, and only one would survive. The Huns changed everything. These Central Asian nomads erupted westward in the 370s CE, terror incarnate on horseback. Gothic tribes fled before them, begging Rome for sanctuary. Emperor Valens admitted them across the Danube in 376 CE, a fatal mistake. Roman officials exploited the desperate refugees, selling them dog meat at extortionate prices, enslaving children. The Goths rebelled. On August 9, 378 CE, at Adrianople, Gothic cavalry destroyed the Roman army. Emperor Valens died in the battle. Two-thirds of the Eastern Field Army was annihilated. Rome hadn't suffered such defeat since Cannae 6 centuries earlier. Adrianople shattered Roman invincibility. Theodosius made peace, settling Goths inside the empire as autonomous foederati. They would fight for Rome but under their own leaders, keeping their weapons and culture. Rome now contained independent barbarian armies on its soil. Alaric, a Gothic commander who'd served Rome, turned against it when denied proper rank and payment. For a decade, he ravaged the Balkans and Italy. On August 24, 410 CE, his army sacked Rome. For 3 days, Goths plundered the Eternal City. The psychological shock paralyzed the Roman world. Rome, unconquered for 800 years, had fallen. Attila the Hun dominated the 440s CE like a force of nature. His empire stretched from Rhine to Caspian Sea. He extracted 2,100 pounds of gold annually from Constantinople. The Eastern Empire paid protection money to avoid destruction. In 451 CE, Attila invaded Gaul with perhaps 200,000 warriors. At the Catalonian plains, Roman general Aetius commanded a coalition of Romans, Visigoths, Franks, and Burgundians. The battle raged with apocalyptic casualties. Attila retreated, his only defeat, but Aetius lacked strength to pursue. Attila invaded Italy in 452 CE, sacking Aquileia so thoroughly it disappeared from history. He marched on Rome. Pope Leo I met him, and mysteriously Attila withdrew. In 453 CE, Attila died, possibly murdered by a bride on his wedding night. His empire immediately collapsed. But Rome gained nothing. Aetius was murdered by Emperor Valentinian III in 454 CE, jealous of his general's fame. Valentinian was himself assassinated in 455 CE. The Vandals then sailed from Africa and sacked Rome for 14 days, methodically looting everything of value. The word vandalism would preserve their thoroughness. The Western Empire entered terminal decline. Puppet emperors served briefly before assassination or deposition. Real power belonged to barbarian generals who made and unmade rulers at will. The 460s and 470s watched the Western Empire dissolve in slow motion. Italy still called itself Rome, but the provinces were gone. Britain had been abandoned in 410 CE. Gaul was divided among Visigoths, Burgundians, and Franks. Spain belonged to Visigoths and Suevi. Vandals ruled Africa and controlled the Mediterranean with their fleet. Emperor Majorian, 457–461 CE, tried genuine restoration, building a fleet to reclaim Africa. The Vandals burned it before it sailed. Ricimer, a half-Visigothic general, murdered Majorian and controlled Italy for 16 years through puppet emperors. The economic collapse was total. Without African grain, Italy starved. Without tax revenue from lost provinces, the government couldn't pay armies. Without armies, more provinces fell. Germanic kingdoms minted their own coins with Roman symbols. They claimed to represent Rome while carving up its corpse. The Eastern Empire survived through wealth, geography, and ruthlessness. Constantinople controlled Aegean and Black Sea trade. Egypt and Syria remained productive. The Theodosian walls made the capital impregnable. Eastern emperors paid barbarians to attack the West instead, deliberately sacrificing their colleagues to preserve themselves. By 475 CE, Rome meant only Italy and part of Illyria. The treasury was empty. The army was Germanic. The emperor was whoever barbarian generals selected. The title meant nothing. Romulus Augustulus became emperor on October 31, 475 CE at perhaps 14 years old. His father Orestes, a former secretary to Attila the Hun, had overthrown the previous emperor and installed his son. The boy's name cruelly mocked history, Little Augustus and Little Romulus. He ruled nothing. The Germanic foederati in Italy demanded land grants, one-third of Italian estates. Orestes refused. The troops mutinied under Odoacer, a Germanic officer. On September 4, 476 CE, Odoacer's forces captured Ravenna. Orestes was executed. Odoacer pensioned off Romulus Augustulus with a villa and allowance. The boy disappeared from history. Odoacer sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople. He declared Italy would have no more emperors. One emperor in Constantinople sufficed for the whole Roman world. He would rule Italy as patrician under nominal Eastern authority. The Western Roman Empire ended not with dramatic battle, but with paperwork and polite fictions. The fall wasn't sudden collapse, but gradual transformation. The Ostrogothic king Theodoric ruled Italy from 493 CE, maintaining Roman law, senate, and administration, while Germans controlled military affairs. The imperial structure persisted everywhere as a shell operated by new management. The Eastern Roman Empire, what historians call Byzantium, endured another 1,000 years. In the West, the Catholic Church preserved Roman organization and Latin language. Kings claimed descent from Roman generals. Everyone wanted to be Rome. But the original, the city that conquered the Mediterranean, the republic that became empire, the civilization that defined the West, had ended. The medieval world began.